hello, and welcome to episode 65 of Cutscene Convos. I know it's been a little bit longer since the last episode. We took a little break there because Horizontal had COVID again. But we are back, and this week is a busy old week. We have got a character profile for Adam Warlock, as well as a spoiler-free Guardians of the Galaxy review, because Horizontal is yet to see the film. We're also going to be ranking MCU Stage 4 in retrospect. I've seen a lot of people have very strong opinions of Marvel Stage 4 and since Endgame. So we're going to actually break it down, talk about it, and see what we think. Also, we are recording on May the 4th, and Visions Season 2 dropped today. We have both binge-watched this today so that we can discuss it. So looking forward to that. Before we get into a pretty hefty Nerd News Network, which includes news about the Writers Guild of America strike, Nintendo having some fun on Twitter, Andy Samburg news, Star Wars news. It's all going down before we wrap things up with Swamp Thing versus Ra's al Ghul in our DC Superhero Showdown final. But for all that good stuff, Horizontal, how have your 2 weeks been?
Oh, nice. I was wondering if you're going to throw it in there. Well, I mean, as you said, I had COVID over a week ago now.
Imagine getting COVID in 2023.
Mate, and imagine getting it when you don't leave your room more than like once a month.
Do you know what's funnier? I'm actually kind of happy you got it now that I know you're fine and you've got over it, okay?
Oh, okay.
Purely because it means I wasn't the last idiot to get COVID.
Ah, good to know.
I got it really late. I got it like October last year. And I thought that I got the whole way through. I was like, okay, cool, there's no way I'm catching it now. And I managed to get it really late. But now I'm not the last idiot to get it. You have succumbed. You have beaten me.
Unfortunately, my dad caught it and I caught it off him. So my mum avoided it somehow. So it's just pure chance, honestly. And it knocked me for 6. It really screwed me. But it has done one positive thing, which is it's given me a normal sleep pattern somewhat.
Oh, has it forced you into a decent routine?
Yeah. Now I'm going to bed at like midnight, like a normal person, and getting up and before midday. So
that's wild.
It did do one good thing, but yeah, got over COVID, then was away for the weekend with family. Big family get together that we do every year. That was a lot of fun. Had a great time with that. Got back on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. I don't even know what day it is anymore. Got back on Wednesday and been catching up on work. There's a lot of work stuff that I'm like now just catching up on messages and all email and all this good stuff. So been a busy couple of days. Plus what, as we said, binging Visions that came out today.
Yeah.
I've just not had time to see Guardians, unfortunately, but we'll find time this week.
Yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
Full deep dive next week.
Yeah. So yeah, recovery week and then family week, and it's been been a weird 2 weeks.
Yeah.
How's your couple of weeks been?
Well, it's always weird when we miss an episode because when we do an episode every week, it feels like they come thick and fast.
Yeah.
But then when you miss a single week, I feel like I've not spoken to you in a year and a half.
Yeah, it makes the gap feel massive.
It's crazy, like how it goes from feeling like we're talking to each other constantly to just, okay, I'll see you when I see you. But what have I done? I don't know. Where have I been? So I went. I'm looking at a fucking calendar trying to work out dates. So last time we recorded was the 19th. So that was just after I was back from Ireland.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I've not really been doing a lot. It's just been a lot of catching up after a crazy couple of weeks, catching up with editing for my YouTube channel, catching up with just a bit of normal life, I guess. But it's been good. It's just the weeks feel all over the place when we've got back to back bank holiday weekends.
Yep.
So it's just I don't, like I said, you said it, I'm gonna say it now. It's like I don't know what day of the week it is. I was talking to someone at work today, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll do that on Monday. And they're like, no, you won't. It's bank holiday Monday. I'm like, shit, I guess I'll do it Tuesday then.
Oh, honestly.
But yeah, it's absolutely craziness. But I think it was a good reset week for us to just decompress, because it couldn't have happened on a better week in all
I was gonna
honesty.
say,
Last week there wasn't. It was slim pickings out here, folks. So when Hori went, I'm definitely not gonna be well enough to do this. I was like, you know what? If it was gonna happen any week, that was the week for it to happen.
I did pick the best week to be ill, to be fair, so we can't really complain there.
But I think it's time we get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Character profile this week's on Adam Warlock.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to say this at the top. This entire character profile was written before I went to watch Guardians 3 yesterday. So
Okay.
I've not edited this or changed any of this as a result of what I've seen in Guardians 3. This is still all based on the original research I did before seeing how he was going to be betrayed in Guardians 3.
Good to know.
So I don't want anyone to watch this and go, well, that isn't what happened. It's like, no, this is how it happened in the comics. So Adam Warlock made his first appearance in Fantastic Four number 66 in June 1967. So he's an old boy. But in his initial appearance, he was referred to only as him.
Okay.
And he was created by a group of researchers who called themselves the Enclave.
Interesting.
And their goal was to create the perfect human.
Okay.
Upon his birth, he immediately sensed that the Enclave planned to use him for evil. So he destroyed their facility, injured and brutally destroyed a number of them, and he escaped their containment area. Shortly after escaping and trying to work out what he was doing in this big wide world, because despite being a super powered nuclear bomb on a galactic scale, he was still also 6 days old. He encountered Thor and Lady Sif. And he became enamored with Lady Sif, and he decided it would be wise to attempt to kidnap her so that she could be his mate.
Ah, smart
Yes.
play.
Comics in the 60s were different. Thor then saved Lady Sif from him and proceeded to beat him almost to death. However, before Thor could deal the killing strike, he did manage to escape, at which point he entered a regenerative cocoon. Later, he was rebirthed and renamed to Warlock by the High Evolutionary.
Okay.
The High Evolutionary then gave him the Soul Stone, which was implanted in his forehead, a la Vision, as well as a purpose. And the purpose was simply for him to be sent to Counter Earth, which was one of the High Evolutionary's experiments. And the High Evolutionary designed this world to be a utopian society where everything was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
However, one of his creations, the Man Beast, had kind of escaped the High Evolutionary's control and had begun to corrupt Counter Earth. So the High Evolutionary sent Warlock there to deal with him once and for all.
Right, okay.
Upon his arrival, Warlock met 14s on Counter Earth who decided that he had to have two names, so they gave him his first name of Adam, which is where we get his name as he's known now of Adam Warlock.
Mm-hmm.
And he became Counter Earth's first superhero, and he resided there for a while in his own kind of comic series. This is kind of before in comic book multiverse was kind of a thing. So instead, you had people just operating on different planets. And how do you have someone be a Earth superhero without having them on Earth? You just create a planet that's basically identical. So that's kind of how that was working. What it is worth noting is in the comics, he was a huge part of the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, and he's also a founding member of the Infinity Watch. So the Infinity Gauntlet is not the same as Infinity War, but some of the beats are quite similar.
Right.
That's
Okay.
more of the one you would have heard of around the time when everyone was talking about what was coming. They were like, "Oh, he tries to court death, blah blah blah." So it's more that kind of story.
Right. Okay.
And then he founded the Infinity Watch, which was designed to stop any one creature getting hold of the Infinity Stones ever again.
Right.
I would say while he is definitely more on the hero alignment, he could very easily, in some portrayals, be described as more of an anti-hero, I think,
Okay.
with his kind of, he has quite big picture goals,
Yeah. Got you.
and he's not afraid to maybe bend the rules of what other heroes would deem acceptable to
Stick to his own.
reach them goals.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ends justify the means to him.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
So a very interesting character that was obviously teased all the way back in, what, 2016 in Guardians 2?
Yeah, it was ages ago now.
2017 in Guardians 2, 6 years ago.
Feels like an age.
It does. It feels like an absolute lifetime ago. Well, I mean, me and Jenna worked out last night after we got back from the cinema that Guardians 1 came out
Oh,
4
God.
days after we started dating.
Oh, wow.
We've been together a decade next year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long ass trilogy.
That is a long trilogy.
But let's get into our spoiler-free review here.
Yes, as I have not seen it.
Yeah, and I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to err more on the side of caution than if we'd both seen it and we were doing a spoiler-free review.
Yep.
Not just because obviously I don't want to ruin the film, but also it was quite a special film as an experience. And I wouldn't want to risk anyone not getting to experience that.
I can understand that.
It's interesting. So when I normally leave, especially a Marvel film,
Yep.
the conversation in the car ride home is always very much like an excited, bouncy one, if that makes sense. Because there's just so much to break down, there's so much to discuss. But I got asked a number of times as I was leaving and on the way home, "Are you all right? You're very quiet." And it was a really surreal experience because, and I mean, I tweeted about it. Let me get my tweet up because, like,
Yeah,
I
you
spent
did.
a while working on this tweet. It might not seem like it, but like I really was struggling to put it into words.
I remember seeing that tweet. I'm
Where is it?
thinking, oh, this is going to be an interesting film.
Tweet's just gone. Hello.
Guy's lost his own tweet.
Any tweeters? So here's what I said. It's not perfect. It's not the greatest movie that's ever going to be released. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a special experience that everyone who's ever loved an MCU film should watch in cinema. The Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy might be one of the best, if not the best, comic book movie trilogy. And I think the only trilogy that I would sit here off the top of my head and say people could put above it is potentially Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy.
Ooh.
I don't think any other trilogy of films hits that level.
Interesting.
With Iron Man, yes, the first one is phenomenal.
Yeah.
2 and 3 are not up to the same level.
Agreed.
Captain America Winter Soldier, one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. First Avengers, okay. Civil War's pretty good, but it doesn't feel like they're a trilogy. This trilogy, I've never seen stuff get put together so well and me sit there and go, wow.
Well,
I'd say it's the first superhero film of 2023 to not lose basically all of its steam in the third act.
oh, there's some bold statements going out, Connor.
Yeah. I was sat there, I was like, are there any other films that haven't lost their steam in the third act? Obviously, Shazam and Ant-Man and the Wasp, we were very clear, really struggled with that. Black Panther lost a little bit of steam, but not too much. But it did lose a bit of steam. I think everyone can agree to that. What else have we had in 2023 so far, or just recently even? But this didn't. Although you could tell where the story beats were, it didn't lose any steam. It kept going. You're like, yep, we're on to the next bit. We're on to the next bit. It kept that momentum at a very nice pace.
Okay.
Although it might not seem like it, I do try and give is entitled to their own opinion. And when it's an opinion thing, I try really hard on that. When there's no way to empirically say if someone's right or wrong. I don't think I'm going to be willing to listen to too many arguments that this is not one of the MCU's best films. I think the people who are going to be vocal about not liking this are going to be people who've decided the MCU needs to end.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
Or people who just never liked the Guardians films anyway.
Yeah.
If you didn't enjoy Guardians 1 and 2, you're probably not going to magically love this.
Well, yeah, obviously. That makes sense.
I'm not going to act like there aren't a couple of minor nitpicky issues I have with it, but I can't remember the last time I went to a film and didn't have at least a nitpicky issue with it.
Especially with MCU.
Yeah. But for the most part, it was pretty damn good. I was pretty damn happy.
Okay.
It had me tearing up at times. It had me genuinely laughing out loud. And if James Gunn is taking this talent to launch the DCU, I am very, very excited.
Ooh.
Because James Gunn has now done 4 comic book movies in the Guardians trilogy and the Suicide Squad.
Yep.
And they are all very, very highly ranked in my superhero films. I'm not a rewatcher of films per se. The Guardians trilogy I will rewatch.
Oh. Very high
especially
praise.
now that I've seen it come to an end.
Yep.
That is a trilogy without watching anything else that I think can be very easy for people to sit down and watch.
Okay.
And yeah, I without going into too much more, I think that's it. The action is some of the better action we've seen recently. The character.
Go on. No, you go.
The character development for everyone that we get real screen time with is substantial. It definitely feels like a goodbye from James Gunn to Marvel fans.
Okay.
And I mean that in the best possible way.
So is this... I'm trying to remember. Is this the first of Phase?
No. Phase 5 started with Quantumania.
Oh, it did. But this is only the second one then of Phase 5, right?
Yes.
We haven't had any shows. Oh, we've had is Miss Marvel Phase 5?
No, that was still from Phase 4.
That's still Phase 4. So we've only had these 2 films for Phase 5, right?
That's all. That is all.
Okay, so
what I will say is, if you enjoyed Guardians 1 and 2, but you're not that up to date on Marvel stuff, and you don't know if you can be asked to try and catch up, all you need to watch to understand it is Guardians 1, 2, and then Infinity War and Endgame.
Okay.
You watch Lemming, you will... Oh, and maybe the Christmas special.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the Christmas special. You could probably get away with not watching it, but I'd suggest you watch it. But you watch all that and you're good to go. Which is still a lot, but it's a lot less than trying to keep up with other films at this point.
Oh, 100%.
It's less than you'd have to watch to be caught up to watch Fast and Furious.
Mate, you don't know. If you want to catch up on Fast and Furious, just don't, and just watch 1, 2, 3 and end there. And maybe 4. There, you can get away with 4. 4 was good. Then it dropped off a cliff.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I think my biggest thing would be if you think you want to watch it, but you were considering waiting until it's on Disney Plus, go watch it in the cinema.
Okay.
I'm a big sucker for the cinema anyway. I enjoy that sitting down with a purpose of watching something. But there are just occasionally them films that you're like, no, that was a cinema experience. The Batman was the same for me. That was a cinema experience. This is definitely a cinema experience for me. And I cannot wait for me and you next week to really get into the nitty gritty of the visuals and stuff, because I think you're gonna love how it looks.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Based on what I know about you and the conversations we've had about content in the past.
I'm looking very, very much looking forward to going to watch it.
Yeah, no, this is. If there had only been like 2 or 3 films between Endgame and this, this is definitely the kind of film where everyone would turn around and go, okay, cool, the MCU's back. We don't need to worry, they've got it under control. We just had a little dip there.
Okay. Fingers crossed.
Had this film come out earlier, it might have stopped a bit of superhero fatigue. It might have sucked enough people back in to get people to take a deep breath.
Right.
But that is a whole different debate.
We can get onto that in the future.
Yeah. Now,
keeping on MCU,
there have been so many discussions recently that the MCU should have died and ended with Endgame, yada yada yada. There has been nothing good since the end of Endgame, yada yada yada. I was like, is it really as bad as people are making out? So I decided we would rank just the films from Stage 4 and talk about them a little bit and see if we think there are some genuinely valid criticisms, or if it is just people who have literally watched their childhood disappear and now they can't emotionally cope without it.
Understandable.
So let's get into this. So, just so everyone knows what we're talking about here, I don't believe these are in correct order, but they might be. The MCU Stage 4 films are Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, when I wrote that list down and I thought about my individual feelings towards each of them films, I did kind of sit there and go, maybe they've got a fucking point. Because a lot of these films I have some serious criticisms towards. But at the same time, I can't say I walked out of the cinema for most of them angry or upset or that wasn't good enough.
No, I think so when I read through this list that you sent me, I kind of hit some clear, those were great films, love them. That was a bad one, and then there's kind of these are kind of mid, which in the moment you don't come out hating it and you're like, okay, that wasn't that bad of a film, I enjoyed it. But I guess looking now, you do realize that there was quite a few kind of mid films in Phase 4.
So I think the best way to put it across is, like I've said, I'm not a big rewatcher of films. But if there is a film that's I really like, I know 6 to 8 months later if I really like it, if someone goes, do you fancy putting that on? And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's watch that. If it's a mid film, I'm gonna go do something else. I'm not gonna spend 2 hours watching a film that's mid. Even if I don't consciously realise I think it's mid. So Winter Soldier, you can basically say to me anytime, do you want to watch Winter Soldier? I'll be like, fuck yes, throw that on.
Let's get it on then.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Black Widow, I really can't be asked. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's a good segue into where I was going to start with this list, which is I'm pretty sure we both have a very solid last place.
Yes.
And I think most MCU fans do, in the sense of Black Widow.
Well, here's the thing with Black Widow. It
came out the wrong time.
Yeah. If that would have come out in the right place in the timeline, and if they'd have done Taskmaster properly, and I do not mean making Taskmaster a man, I mean simply making Taskmaster done well.
Yep.
I think this film could have been very, very good.
Yeah, I agree.
But the waiting for it to be quite an average plot made the plot seem worse by comparison, as well as the wastefulness of Taskmaster. I mean, it puts it at the bottom. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and absolutely trash it. I went to see it. I enjoyed it enough while I was there. I like I said, I wasn't like, well, that was a waste of 2 hours. But if someone goes, oh, I was just about to watch Black Widow, do you want to watch it with me? I'm probably not going to say yes.
Yeah, agreed. I think you nailed it there with like, it came out, primarily, it came out at the wrong time. Like, it felt late. It's like, why did we just not, like, there was no solid reason for why we would like get this now and not just have it earlier. Like with Miss Marvel, it made sense that we would like time hop way back and like, or Captain Marvel, sorry,
Captain Marvel.
and that made sense. Like why we hadn't had that film earlier.
Yeah.
But this just felt late, and then like you say, Taskmaster was just kind of very poorly done and used, and I think had they fixed those two things, like it would have been a much better film. But for Phase 4, it's slap bang at the bottom. It's just, yeah, it's just not good.
Now, I think we're going to disagree on what we have next.
So here's the thing, right? Are we going down the list, or do we want to do this in number
order? I was
order?
going to go through our rankings, bottom to top.
Okay, so what you have for number 6?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Let's
see. So I think you're going to say Eternals, but I have Thor.
In a shocking turn of events, I also have Thor.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
There we go. It's almost like we talk and like share our thoughts and become one hive mind every week for over a year now.
These are the views of Cutscene Cover.
we did sit here and when we both said we enjoyed Thor, and I did enjoy Thor, but I would be lying if I said I don't see some validity in people's complaints of it.
Yeah, and I will say, from my like 6 up to 3, it's very close. It was very difficult for me to put them in full or like really pick. But the way I did it is like, yes, I enjoyed 4. We both said we really enjoyed the humor and this, like we loved that part of it. But when I was thinking back, I was like, other than the humor, what actually happened in 4? And I was like, I don't really remember what the main beat of it was, other than humor and 4 doing a workout.
Yeah, I get that.
So I was like,
what I will say is, as much as we can and fairly say that that wasn't good enough, etc., I'd still say it's the second best Thor film.
Yeah.
I think Ragnarok is like a top MCU film. I think the first Thor and Thor Dark World are both pretty bad.
Yeah, the first 4 was
I'd say, I think we can all agree Dark World is terrible.
Yeah.
To the point where me, as someone who literally has spent hours watching and reading about this, when it came time for Infinity War and Endgame, forgot that the Reality Stone was in Dark World. And I was like, wait, we haven't seen the Reality Stone yet. Because it's that forgettable of a film. Then you've got Thor and Love and Thunder, which, based on taste, you can put either way around, I think.
Yeah.
And then you've got Ragnarok, which is streaks ahead of all of them.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so I don't think I don't think that's a particularly controversial pick to have Thor in 6th out of these 7.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I think this potentially gives us a better chance of matching on number 5 as well. I have Eternals.
Now, this is where we are different.
Okay, what have you gone for?
So I've got Doctor Strange.
Okay.
But I was like I said, these were very difficult. I kept switching them around and I couldn't decide. But then I came to the conclusion that I personally enjoyed the introduction to Eternals and this kind of bigger thing it opened up that was going on. Doctor Strange was great. It just, I don't know, it felt like it was lacking a bit of there was a bit too many different story beats going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can get that. So the reason I had Eternals in fifth was while I did enjoy the characters, which is why I had it above Thor, and I thought it was a very nice introduction to a new set of characters. It felt like, upon retrospect, that the fall of Icarus and the pacing sped up with not a lot of explanation. It went from quite a slow, like, oh, what's happening
Mm,
here, trying to work out what's going on, to, oh, we all hate each other, we're divided down the middle, we must now decide who's doing what. And you had like your
yeah,
characters fighting to save Earth, your characters fighting for their to do what they're supposed to do, and you had like people like Kingo who were like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not getting involved. Whatever you guys decide on between yourselves, I will honor. Um,
yeah, I can understand that.
so I just felt upon reflection that it missed out slightly. But it's also one of the ones out of here that I'd be very happy to see a sequel for announced soon,
Yeah.
because I think there's definitely something there. And I think for a first film where you're having to introduce that many characters, it did do a very good job. I just think we've got 3 genuinely very good films still on this list. And again, this
Hmm.
part comes down to taste.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, for me, Doctor Strange was slightly lower just because I felt like it was you had Wanda's storyline kind of competing with what Doctor Strange was trying to learn, and then that introduction. I get it was more. It felt like a film just to kind of help the viewers learn the multiverse, but it
Yeah,
kind of felt a little bit all over the place. Um,
okay, that's fair. So
but
is it safe to assume in fourth place we are the inverse of each other?
yeah, so if you
And
got
I have Doctor Strange and you have
yeah,
Eternals?
correct.
Okay, cool. This
So we're
this does
essentially
show
the
the
same.
yeah. So the reason I went for Doctor Strange above Eternals
Okay.
is I liked that they tried something new in the sense of it being a bit more creepy and
Mm, mm-hmm.
hitting more of them horror elements. I wouldn't say it was an out and out horror film like people were initially trying to sell it as, but it definitely had their moments where you're like, fuck me, that is genuinely a bit scary.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Um, I always enjoy some fuckery and the visuals that you can do with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Um, and seeing the power of what the multiverse can do for us as fans with cameos from Patrick Stewart as
Yeah.
Professor X and Jim Krasinski as Reed and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like a yeah, I get it's fan service, but at the same time, I'm a fan. I'm
Yeah.
who got serviced. Like, if it was bad fan service, then you can't really call it fan service if the fans don't like it. But I enjoyed it. It was nice. I do agree there are some issues with it. I do think that your criticism of it was a Doctor Strange film, but it felt more like a Wonder film in places is valid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think overall, while I came out of that less impressed than I came out of Eternals, I think upon reflection, Doctor Strange has aged better in my mind than Eternals has.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But
I can
again,
understand that.
with them two being so close, that is purely
Yeah.
just a preference of what you want to see when you go to the cinema.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the reason Doctor Strange takes shares for me is just it did try something a bit new.
Now, I'll be
Now,
interested.
this is, yeah, these are all very much going to be a taste thing. I think we will have first the same,
Oh,
but okay, maybe not then.
I think we might
Um,
have third the same.
you think we might have third the same? Okay, what have you got in third?
I have Black Panther in third.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. Um,
While I love the film, I love the visuals of the film. The score was incredible. The design and all, like the emotion that we got to feel through that film. It felt compared to the remaining two of Shang-Chi and Spider-Man, it just felt a little lacking with Namor. in how they used him at times, which is why I've put it in
Okay.
third.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, first and foremost, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is a phenomenal film.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think that's up for debate here before people come in and like, wow, you're putting that third. That's easily a really good film. We're not saying it's not a great film. It's a fucking brilliant film.
Yeah.
And it is definitely out of the ones on this list, the first film we've got to so far that I would rewatch pretty happily.
Yeah.
I think it is hampered slightly with I don't love it as much as the first Black Panther film.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish we got more out of that Shuri and Killmonger
Yeah. It's just,
exchange, because Shuri comes out of that ready to kill Namor, and that's her plan, and we don't actually see that plan change as much as on a dime she just goes, no, I can't do this. And I'm not a fan of them on the dime changes where she goes from literally 30 seconds before actively killing him by dehydrating him to then changing her mind at the last second.
yeah, I think that's what it was. There was just the way they did the conflict with Namor kind of just felt a bit lacking in places. And that
um
can be part and parcel to a lot of different things that film went through during production and having to be rewritten and all sorts. But yeah,
what I will say is I think that film is going to end up being higher on our list in a couple of years once we've had more out of
potentially.
Riri. And once Riri nostalgia can sit in, and we're like, that was when we first got Riri. That film's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah,
Um,
that could be true.
yeah, I think it has, out of all these films, the best potential to age well.
I can agree on that.
So, do I take it from your umming and ahhing about me thinking we're going to agree on number one that you have Spider-Man at number two?
I do have Spider Man at number two.
Okay. Um,
Now,
so I've got Shang-Chi at two.
okay, that doesn't
Um,
surprise me.
and I think it is fair to say that it is because I'm a complete sucker for
Spider Man.
everything No Way Home were trying to do.
Oh, I
And I
mean,
think it executed its plans basically perfectly.
I think, don't get me wrong, Spider Man was an incredible film. And like you say, it nailed everything it wanted to do. We got the fan service that we all wanted. Um, and it opened the world to this whole like multiverse thing. It was an amazing Spider-Man film through and through. The only reason I put, well, not the, well, more so the reason I put Shang-Chi above it for me is the martial arts in Shang-Chi are fucking incredible. The visuals in Shang-Chi, I think, are more amazing. And that comes from just what Shang-Chi has to play with, if that makes sense. Like, at the end of the day, Spider-Man is it, like, he doesn't have mystical beings to be fighting in that film. So there's just certain things in Shang-Chi that appeal to my, like, the creative side of me and stuff that I kind of put that above
Yeah.
Spider-Man purely for those things. And I'm
Um,
very much more, like, Shang-Chi 2 is probably the film that I'm most excited for when we get it.
I think Shang-Chi is a genuine masterpiece. I think it is another situation with the Black Panther films where when you're letting culture do culture,
Mm,
it feels authentic and real, which is why it's so good. I completely agree that it visually was stunning. The story was well put together for a origin story, which is difficult to do.
mm,
It is so insanely rewatchable, and I do love that film. Um, and probably by rights, it should be higher than Spider-Man: No Way Home, and I completely get why you would put it above that. But when it comes down to a preference, which is all this list is,
yeah.
I don't think me, who as someone who grew up watching the animated Spider-Man cartoon at 6 a.m. on a Saturday with the Spider-Man candy sticks, having watched the Tobey Maguire films, the Andrew Garfield films, the Tom Holland films, and buying Spider-Man comics regularly, can sit here and say that I didn't squeal and clap and just lose my ever-loving shit during No Way Home. And for No Way Home, I was really anxious going into it because of all the leaks about it. I was like, there was no way this film is going to live up to what I've built it up to be in my mind, and it did.
Yeah. No, I mean, all
I will
those
also say
things are valid.
it has been the only film since Endgame that's had the balls to actually kill off someone important.
This is that's valid. Yeah. Because there's definitely been some films where there should have been, and they.
I mean, I think everyone with a brain cell left Ant-Man and the Wasp was like, wait, so no one died?
No one
Really?
died or got stuck. Like, yeah.
Um,
I do
so yeah.
think Shang-Chi and Spider-Man are very close, and it all comes down
100%.
to preference on if you're a massive Spider-Man fan or just like what your preference in kind of action and style goes to.
But I think it's very easy if you look at this to see is we had 3 genuinely top MCU films.
Yep.
In Black Panther, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man. We then had 3 middle of the road films, and depending on your personal taste, some of them might be close to that top third.
Yeah.
And then we had 1 absolute stinker.
I can agree on that.
But I don't know how many phase 1 and 2 films I can confidently say are going above, like, Doctor Strange, which I had at 4. I think Doctor Strange is probably, if I was to rank all of the MCU films, which maybe we'll do some point soon, I feel like that's probably right around the middle area. So, and that's also in the middle of this list. Does that mean we're moving in the right direction? Or not necessarily the right direction. Does it mean we're not moving in the wrong direction?
I don't think we're moving in the wrong direction. I just think the issue that the fandom has is we reached such a high bar with Infinity War and Endgame that what was once like a mediocre good film now feels mediocre lower because we've experienced such a high bar with the kind of finale of phase 3 that it was always going to be the case going into phase 4 that nothing was going to be able to live up to that because you don't have that build up. And I think we're kind of all looking for, like, got that our like opinions are skewed because of that.
You know what I think the best way I can describe Endgame as?
Go on.
As like, do you remember, this guy sounds so fucking cringe, but it's the only way I can possibly think to explain it.
Okay.
Do you remember when Fortnite did the Black Hole event? And then the
Yes.
game wasn't playable for like 2 or 3 days or whatever it
Yes.
was. And the game had started to decline slightly. But this moment happened, and instantly everyone's eyes were glued to it. Like, Cypher PK had over like 200,000 viewers for like 4 days straight, just staring at a black screen, trying to work out what was going on.
Yeah,
Endgame felt like that. It felt like a lot of people had already invested so much time that they were like, I'm seeing this through. And they went, okay, I've seen this story. I'm okay to leave it now. But because then people just went, okay, this isn't for me anymore. Like a lot of us have done with Fortnite now. We've gone, okay, I'm over this now. And we've moved on from it. That now means the people who just do enjoy it but want to blame something are now blaming everything new, saying that it's caused the downfall. Whereas I think they could have released their best ever films after Endgame, and they still wouldn't have done as well because a number of people just went, I'm getting off the ride now.
Yeah. No, that's actually quite a good comparison because you have to look like, same with Endgame, what happened with that at the end of Fortnite. there was so much build up that like though some people towards the end maybe didn't rush to see the films, they still were like, oh, I'll keep up. And then as it was getting closer to Endgame and there was more talk of it and more hype, everyone like caught up on things, people came back, people reinvested into it, and the payoff was there. We got the payoff. What happened with Fortnite? And then after that, a lot of people were like, oh, I got my payoff. Cool. See you later. Or like they watched the first thing after that and were like, meh, it just feels like the same old again now. I'm done. Happened in Fortnite. You could even say in Fortnite, there's been some of the best partnerships that game's done since then, but
Yeah.
less people, it's not a cultural phenomenon anymore.
And here's
Like,
the thing: people will say Fortnite fell off. It's still raking in millions every year, and it is still widely a successful game. But everyone is comparing it to its height, and I
yep,
think that is what is happening to the MCU right now. Everyone's
exactly.
going, "These films aren't as hype as Endgame was," and it's like, okay, but you've got to put. You know, when you look back at old media and they always say, like in school, reading an old book, you've got to look at the context of the world to fully
Mm-hmm.
understand it. You've got to look at the context of the world since Endgame. We've gone through a global pandemic and we are heading on a fast track to a global recession.
Yep.
A lot of people are still a bit weird about being in public places for too long.
Mm,
And a lot of people are also being very careful about their money.
yeah.
Going to the cinema to see a film that's going to be on Disney Plus in 3 months' time might not be on everyone's top priority list anymore.
No, I would agree. And we said it way back in the midst of phase four that phase four was like going back to phase one. It was a build like a fresh build up. And if you looked back to phase one was kind of slow.
Yeah.
Um,
It was a bunch of individual films, and then everyone was like losing their mind when they said Avengers is going to have all these characters together, and they're like, "What? None of them have interacted before, other than Black Widow."
exactly. Like all we got was a post credit scene on some of them that like
Yeah,
linked it into the same thing. And everyone was like, "Oh my god, they're starting to link them." It's the same thing again, and I think you never know. Maybe by phase six, we will get a build up again, and people will return because they'll be like, "Oh shit, everyone's talking about like this huge build up again." And it'll probably pull a bunch of people back in, but it's gonna be hard to hit that same feeling as it did the first time round. It's
uh-huh.
nothing ever hits the same a second time. And it's always hard to like hit that peak and to stay on that peak and climb again. Like it's gonna drop. So I think overall phase four was good. I don't think it was going in the wrong direction. I think it's just people kind of have this clouded judgment of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. However, one thing that's definitely gone in the right direction:
Star
Vision
Wars.
season 2.
Yes.
I loved Vision season 1.
So did
I
I.
did. I didn't know if they'd be able to top it. However, going to more than just anime studios was a stroke of genius.
Yes.
The variety of art and animation styles and stories we got in these 9
Hmm.
episodes, give me a season of Visions every 2 years for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Like so I mean I have a note I wrote and it was just like overall the range of like cultural influence that we got to see in these Star Wars stories was amazing. The range of styles, some really pushing the boat out, some more like traditional styles and stuff we've seen before. For example, the Aardman Studios, like sticking to their iconic style. But like
Yeah,
some of the styles were very much out there and new, and we got such a wide range of just experiences in a
yeah.
Star Wars universe.
Um, what I will say is, although like the cultural influence was there in season 1, because they were all anime and Japanese and
Mm,
Korean studios, the influence felt consistent throughout them all,
yes.
which made it less noticeable. Whereas having all of the voice actors be speaking in the same accent because they're all clearly from wherever that studio's based,
Yeah.
made it feel so diverse and wonderful.
Yeah.
Like that episode, I think it was episode 7, which was the one with the very clearly Indian
Yes.
studio.
Very clearly influenced by their culture
Yeah.
and
Just gorgeous. I mean,
yeah.
the artwork was gorgeous, but also just seeing how naturally that Indian culture can fit in a Star Wars universe and not feel weird to have it there is just phenomenally well done. And just like everyone from around the world getting to have their Star
Yeah.
Wars moment just felt nice and right
It
and real.
really did. And it's like it all works so well because obviously Star Wars is such a huge universe of like and stuff we haven't seen. It's like it's not a weird concept to have these cultures exist
Yeah, of course.
in the Star Wars world. So it works perfectly and it's such a smart idea for these studios to lean on that. There was
For
like
sure.
one consistent kind of small detail I feel like kind of traveled through them all in this season.
Go on.
There was a strong focus on kyber crystals
Yes, I was literally going to say that.
and like throughout. And I don't know whether this was like Star Wars gave all these studios like we like a like maybe focus around kyber crystals or something, or if it's just by chance. But I did quite
I
like that.
I don't know if they give them a brief and they're like, here is what we want your episode to focus on, or like this series, our main themes are this. Do that however you want to do it. Or if a bunch of artists went, Kyber crystals are fucking awesome. Can we do a story about kyber crystals? Which also seems very possible.
Yeah, part of me is like either they give a brief or the studios go with like drafts and like pitch story ideas, and maybe then Disney was kept telling the studios like, oh, we like the kyber crystal one on and kind of like influence it
Like,
that way.
yeah. Like,
Or
was it episode 9 that was the little girl with the voice in the kyber
yes,
crystals? Like, that was beautiful.
all I wonder is like there's so little kind of already written. Like there's stuff about kyber crystals, but there's very little like hard canon facts about it that
Well, we also
the
know that
studios just had
Disney's
more.
just doesn't have to follow any rules.
Well,
They can do whatever they want.
also that, and it's like there's just that gives them more freedom to do whatever they want, and it not seem like oh this goes like too closely against canon or something. Like there's no one can really question anything about kyber crystals.
But also, I think there is a big yearning amongst Star Wars fans to see more of Kyber Crystal. Like
Yeah.
everyone wants to see a Kyber Crystal get bled and get
Mm-hmm.
healed in live action.
Yeah.
So then, when you've got 9 episodes and there's like 4 or 5 of them where you see a Kyber Crystal going through some kind of change
Mm-hmm.
in this beautiful animated style, you do kind of just want to go, wow.
Yeah, give us
And
that in
it once
actual.
again goes to show that animation can capture stuff
Mm-hmm.
that live action and CGI will never be able to do. Never. Because the whole point of CGI is to make it look like realistic for the real world, which means these big, crazy things that they do to give off the right emotion and the right sense of what's going on just isn't possible.
No, I agree.
I need every adult who thinks animation is just for kids to grow the fuck up so that we can start getting the best possible content from the franchises we love.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've made notes on rough little notes on all the episodes. I don't know if you.
No,
So like
I have not, but it's all very fresh in my mind. So as you talk, I will
so
regurgitate my
episode
thoughts.
1 was called Sith,
Yeah,
and I thought out of all of them had the most interesting visual style with that like painterly effect and the kind of use of like the pure white with the color and showing light versus darkness. I loved the style of that episode.
it was definitely the perfect episode to have at number 1
Mm-hmm.
because it sets the tone of you are going to see stuff that you're not used to seeing.
Yes.
In the sense of we are going to have fun with how everything looks in the Star Wars universe. And I think because that one does it so aggressively,
Yeah.
it really makes all of the other ones easier to digest.
Yeah. It really sets the tone for what to
Yeah.
expect. And um I love the design of the Inquisitor.
Mm-hmm. Kick ass.
Um and the like the two guys that were with her. And the little droid. The little droid was cool as shit. And
What was
I
that? Was that Easy One or
yeah,
E something?
something like that. And the fucking one wheel bike. There was so many cool things with that. Just the level of like um world building and design they put into that
Yeah.
episode was great.
It was very cool. The lightsaber battle towards the end was phenomenal.
Mhm.
We kind of saw her teasing that she might become like a grey Jedi
Well, yeah,
because she
she
was
had
like,
like
"Oh,
a
the light and
yellow.
the light and the dark exist in one, and they exist in me," which is interesting. But I think overall, it was just like a battle episode with not a lot else to it.
Yeah,
And
it
don't get
was.
me wrong, a pure battle episode with such a striking art style is still a
Mhm.
brilliant way to spend
Oh yeah.
15 minutes.
Oh yeah, 100%. Episode 2 was Screecher's Reach, which was the.
That was a lot of fun.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It was interesting. It definitely was like out of all 9 was probably my least favorite. Not meaning that it was bad, just it wasn't on my preferred. I don't know, just didn't hit the spot for me.
I really enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say I'd put it above any of the others either way. I think I rate this entire series just very high.
Yeah.
Is there any other ones that I didn't enjoy as much as this one?
Um well, episode 3 was the Into the Stars, I think it was called, which was the
Oh,
water
that what
treatment.
that was the design of the TIE fighter right at the very beginning
Yes.
sold me on that instantly. I was like, yes, that is gorgeous. I love
The
the story. I love seeing more of a I don't want to call it less developed, but a more traditional world that was clearly in an earlier stage of civilization.
mhm.
And like seeing these two kids who managed to survive it all. Clearly, they had a force sensitive mother, and they're like, no, we're going to fight and get our home back and kick the Empire out. Was beautiful.
Yeah, like loved the style and loved the contrast that we got between like the empire and industrialization and stuff. I will say, in a 15-minute short, I've never come to find a kid so annoying as not just listen to your damn sister and stop screwing up the plan. Like I got so annoyed that that kid didn't listen, and I'm like, this is a 15-minute short, and it's got me this like
Heated.
yes, which just shows how good it was with the story it was telling.
Did you It's just, it's just dawned on me. They
Mm.
must give the studios the same brief because not only was there a running theme around kyber crystals, there was a running theme that all of these seem to take place during the Empire's reign,
Yeah, maybe they set a
and
time
they're
period.
all a little bit rebellious as well.
Yeah,
The
possible.
only one that doesn't follow kyber crystal or rebellion is the pilot episode, which I think is number 4.
Yeah, which is next. Yeah, no, I would say maybe they set a period of time. It wouldn't surprise me that they've all gone rebellious by their own choice because it just makes for a good little 50-minute story. Like to have somebody going against, like,
But yeah, you don't have to set up the conflict yourself because it's a well-established conflict that's
yeah,
already there.
it wouldn't surprise me if they all just happened to decide to do that. But yeah, episode 4, like you said, was the Aardman Studio one. I am
Yeah,
your
Wallace and Gromit.
mother.
Yeah, I am
Love,
your mother.
like you can't go wrong with the Aardman style.
That
Like,
that style looks so right for Star Wars.
yeah,
I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew it would obviously still be iconic, and I'd recognize it, and it wouldn't feel alien to me. But the second I saw that pilot with like the rebel pilot uniform,
hmm
I kind of was like, "Oh, that looks right. That looks really right."
yeah. There's something
Petition for
about
the Clone Wars to be remade in Oddman style.
Or
Thoughts?
honestly, like I could see a more like some sort of animated film being done by Aardman. Like it fit
Yeah,
so
it
well.
really worked, especially for like a brighter, slightly happier story.
Yeah. And
I'm not sure how well it would handle like an Order 66 type scene, but if you wanted to do a kind of fun adventure in the Star Wars universe style story, you could definitely use that style and make it work.
I've just had because so when we talked about season 2 in the trailer and we saw the different studios and stuff, I mentioned that Aardman Studio did a thing called Creature Comforts, which is where they
Yeah.
like did those TV style interviews with animals. Imagine that style of show where we get like a week, and it's them like TV interview of a stormtrooper, TV interview of a rebel pilot, and it's like just so like British humor of what like sarcasm and to the point of like what the heck would actually be going on, and then like the day-to-day complaints of these people. I think that actually would make for a great short series, especially with the Aardman style. I think it would work so well.
Yeah. I will say, while I'm not against a embarrassing parent storyline, it's a classic. It works. They did not do a very good job of making that mum genuinely seem embarrassing. She seems
N-
like an absolute angel of a mother.
Do you know what I did think about that episode? You like obviously with it being Aardman, it is very much relatable for us because we're British.
Yeah,
There,
no,
there
it's
was
very
a
British.
there was a lot of beats in it that I thought this is humorous to me because I understand these small British cultural like references to things.
Yeah.
I wonder how well that hits for like Americans and for
Yeah.
people in other countries. Whether they just like, oh, it's the Wallace and Gromit style, like we like it because of that.
I mean, I don't know. Is Wallace and Gromit even well known around the world,
I
or is it very much
I
just
don't
a
know.
here thing?
I feel like it might be, but um, episode 5 was Journey to the Dark Head, which was the pilot and the young Jedi.
Well, I think that was the best story.
I agree. I think that episode 5 and episode 9 are my two favorite.
Yeah, I can definitely have them up there. I think the animation for episode 5 might be the most basic, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way because like it's still gorgeously well done, but it didn't. It seemed like a more traditional style of animation.
If I Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and I can't remember which studio did that, but yeah, no, I would agree on that. I thought it had a very strong story though,
The
and
story was
a
phenomenal. I
story
loved it.
that I would love to see more of.
Mm.
And
I want to know more about this temple where they
yeah,
sit on the knife's edge and they don't care one way or the other. They are just there to record everything. That
um,
is very interesting to me.
I also really loved the design of the Sith.
Mm.
I thought that was a
I do love how much fun these studios have with designing their own lightsabers.
so. This is the thing, and it's like the way that the Umbrella lightsaber in season 1, this guy's chain thing that he can control, I think is a very cool weapon that people are going to fall in love with. And I would love to see something like that in live action. I think that would be sick to see.
Yeah. Do you know what's really funny? And I always find this funny. When Phantom Menace came out, a lot of the die-hard original trilogy fans weren't sure about the double-ended lightsaber. And like, let's be clear, it was only a thing because they wanted to sell toys. Like, I don't
Yes.
think anyone's ever argued that. But as the generation who grew up with a double-ended lightsaber, I feel like we were a lot more accepting of Kylo Ren's hilt, even though we knew it was just
Yeah.
to sell toys. And I'm always down for these crazy little fucking changes to lightsabers. Yes, I understand it makes canon a bit more difficult because you're like, okay, why are we just seeing this now? But
Yeah.
my god,
Do you know what I love
just
though?
let people be creative with their
Is
lightsabers.
it then causes like the fans that do love that stuff then spend the time to figure out how does this actually work?
Oh yeah, Disney never ever need to give a fuck about how it fits into lore because the fans who love the style will make it work.
Yeah, they'll find a way.
That they will fanfic it into canon and make it make sense.
Because that's what they did with Kylo Ren. It was just like, oh, these are exhaust things because it's unstable. And it's like, boom,
and then
there you
they just
go.
went, yeah, you got it, well done. They're like, oh, I fucking know.
But yeah, episode 5, I love that one. Episode 6 was the Spy Dancer. Oh, it was the one with the woman and all the stormtroopers at a show.
Oh, and her son was the Imperial officer.
Yes. I thought visually...
I loved the animation of that.
Yeah,
I thought it was different.
The animation was...
I really liked it.
The animation was really cool. I loved like the kind of play on this idea of a show. And I really wasn't expecting the twist of the son. Like it really caught me off guard with the like that being the son. They really built it up to be the old guy, and then boom, no, it's her son. I really enjoyed that. I loved this idea that there's all the stormtroopers going to a show and it's just like a rebel thing. It fit in very well.
Yeah, I enjoyed the twist and the story of it as well. The idea that, I mean, we know the Empire went around and stole children and conscripted them to be stormtroopers, but the idea that some of them also became officers.
Yeah.
And they thought they lived that life that way their entire life, and their mother who literally birthed them is like part of the rebellion, and they've been indoctrinated so hard into the Empire
they don't realize
that they think that the Empire is genuinely right. And it was a very interesting story for sure.
Yeah.
And again, it's another one of ones that I'd happily probably watch another 15 minutes of to get a bit more from it. But I think that's why they make these 15 minutes. So they can really have fun with the animation and they don't have to rush any of that. But also, always leaving us wanting more means that they can get more series out of this for longer. Because in reality, they could do probably 2 really bad seasons at this point already, and we'd still watch it all just in case they have another banger.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, another really good episode. I mean, they're all phenomenal.
They are. Episode 7 is the Bandits of Galak, which is the one we talked about with the Indian influence.
That may very well be one of my favorites. I think 5, 7, and 9 are probably my 3 favorites, and I'm not sure what order I'd put them in.
So I love the story of 7, and I think the cultural side of it really fit in well. I love the idea of it. Like they basically took like those huge bustling trains from India and just shoved it into Star Wars. Yeah, I think that worked great. I love this idea of like finding the hidden Jedi who happened to be some old fucking lady who was badass. Loved all of that. Personally, wasn't a huge fan of just the visual style. It just didn't hit for me.
I don't think it was anything outrageously special, but I still think it looked quite nice.
There was just a couple of like, I don't know, points where it threw me off. And I know it's probably just the artistic person in me where it just didn't like, something just wasn't hitting right and it kind of pulled me out of it a little bit. But I think everything else about it was great.
Design.
Yeah, the Inquisitor was very cool.
Very much still being an Inquisitor, but having again them cultural elements to it.
Yeah.
Didn't feel out of place, but still to us, very clearly we knew where it was inspired from. I think is very well done. I think that deserves a lot of respect to merge East Asian culture into Star Wars so cleanly.
Oh yeah,
without it feeling out of place is phenomenally well done. And the old lady Jedi is an absolute badass.
Yeah, she really was. Episode 8.
Which one was episode 8?
So episode 8 was the pit, the one with the prisoners in the bottom.
That was a great story as well. These episodes were so damn good.
Yeah, I thought it was a great story. The whole like using prisoners to it was very much like, oh, this is Star Wars. Like this makes total sense using prisoners to mine kyber crystals.
This is Andor.
Yeah, like and building like a city right next door, and they are clueless to what's going on.
Yeah,
loved all that. And the whole like climbing out of the pit, do you know what my brain immediately did?
You were born in the dark. I
Yeah,
was born in the
yeah.
darkness.
It
Molded
immediately
by
took
it.
me to like
Yeah,
Bane
100%.
climbing out of the pit in Batman.
The second they all had to try and start climbing the
Yeah,
wall, I went straight back there as well.
my brain did that. I was not expecting that kid to just get thrown into the pit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was half expecting it to cut down to the bottom, and like he was stopping himself from falling using the force or something.
Yeah, so did I. And then no, it's
Um,
just body on the
he's
floor.
dead. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fucking harrowing.
Yeah, it hit that thing of Star Wars of like, oh, this is the dark world to live in. Um, but yeah, I love that one. Love the little thing we see at the end when she has this sliver of the kyber crystal and it turns blue. I thought that was
Yes,
really cool.
it like speaking to her, and then it stands up, and then it like connects with her, and it gets its
Hmm.
blue color. Chef's kiss, so good.
Yeah, really love that. And then episode 9, which I think is my number one episode of the series,
I think
uh,
it's definitely my favorite art style.
was our song, our.
Yeah,
Um,
8 hours song. Yeah.
I thought the story of she has this voice that can purify these corrupted kyber crystals, which plays into the whole like bleeding them and all that like stuff that has never been said is canon, but there's like so much discussion around it. The idea that like someone could use their voice to do that and purify them
Well, yeah.
was
So
such a
like we got
cool
like a very
idea.
iconic like scroll at the beginning of the episode, which I liked.
Yes.
And it was basically like on this planet, they've always had kyber crystals, and they always loved their kyber crystals. The Siths found out that the Jedi were getting their kyber crystals here, so an angry Sith turned up and poured all of their hatred into the planet to corrupt all of the kyber crystals.
Hmm. So now the
That is a
Jedi's
such a good concept.
yes, and now the Jedi spend time purifying them.
Yeah, so now that out of love for the Jedi and wanting their kyber crystals to still be worthy, they mine them very carefully, and then the Jedi's who have the time and patience will purify them.
You saying about the scrolling text at the beginning, immediately when that started, I was like, oh my god, this is Star Wars. I was
Yeah,
like, there's something about yellow text to start off a Star Wars film or like
it
short or
puts
is
you
it
there,
it's
doesn't
just like
it?
yeah, you're just like I'm in Star Wars. I
Yeah.
love that little detail that they chose to do that. I love
The
the
art style is
style.
gorgeous,
Yeah, the art
so
style was
gorgeous.
so nice. Um I'm pretty sure going off the accents that this was the South African
Yes, I believe
studio.
so.
So then the play on like the characters being sort of like tigers slash lions, it's hard to
Yeah,
tell. I actually quite liked like that was like a little nod to like
yeah,
um but yeah, this idea that a voice could purify kyber crystals is such a
yeah.
clever story.
And it's really interesting as well because they kind of played it off a little bit like maybe she was being corrupted by these crystals. Because like we
Yeah,
see all these corrupt crystals talking to her and making her sing, and her dad's really worried because every time she sings, like they
but
get
cut short. It like
shaky and
yeah.
dangerous. And you're like, oh no, is she gonna like be turned to the dark side by all these evil
Mm-hmm.
crystals? And in reality, it's just they were calling out to her for help because they're in pain.
And
That's why
they
it's
just
called
needed
grieving the
her
crystal, because the
to
crystal's
finish the
literally in
song.
pain,
Yeah.
and they're like, "We, you can help us, please help us."
Something I think the reason this episode kind of takes the top point for me was like because it was around a song, the score and the music for this episode was
So good,
amazing and so well done. Like that brought it to a whole like next level for me.
exactly. And the visuals for her purifying all the crystals with that big song at
Yes.
the end, where like everything disappears and you just see all the crystals scattered throughout the mountain, turning pure.
Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful, and this is why animation is so clear because there is no way to create that same feeling in live
No,
action.
there really isn't. Um, but yeah, overall, I think they did an amazing job with season 2. There was definitely more hits this time around
Yes,
than season 1.
And I think spreading where the studios are based out
Hmm.
throughout the world and having as many styles as possible is definitely the right way to go.
I agree.
And I really want some studios to take some confidence in how well received both seasons have been for being and trying stuff. And I want a studio to really go, right, let's actually be fully artistic and just let this flow and really push the boat out. Let's really try something. Because maybe it won't work, but if it does work, you have a chance to be a genuine memory and a genuinely huge part of quite possibly the biggest franchise ever.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love for like a season 3 if we got, because we got we got a range of animation styles,
Mm-hmm.
but they were all, I would say, leaned more to like abstract or cartoony.
Yeah,
I would love to have season 3 be like an even wider range, to have like episode 1 is like some weird painterly like out there style. There's like episode 2 is like game cinematic level of like CGI, like some crazy, like a bigger range back and forth to really just like spread out on studios.
yeah.
I'd love to see like a bit more variety, or
Yeah,
wider variety, shall I say.
I really think they do just need to.
Keep pumping.
Any studio who can physically manage a project of this size, go to them. Hey guys, go work on this. One and all, go work on this. When it's ready, send it in to us. And every
Mm-hmm.
time we have 9 episodes that are good enough, we'll put a series out and just make it like an open invite. Because if you do it that way, you can also potentially get some of these really small studios that are mega talented who can be like, this is our chance.
Do you know what I think they should do? Kind of maybe, because doing that opens up kind of a bit of a world of NDAs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But a really cool thing they could do is one of the 9 episodes should be fan submitted. Let
Oh, imagine
Because there are some
how hype that would be for
incredible
someone.
fan shorts on
Imagine
YouTube.
imagine growing up like as the Clone Wars animated series was like coming out. Like if you were like born as that was coming out. So like you're 16 years old now, say,
Mm-hmm.
and like in 2 or 3 years' time, you've loved Star Wars your entire life, and you find out that your episode's been chosen to be in season 3 of Visions.
Like you should be able to like, they should do a submission thing. People can
The
submit.
only thing that hurts them is for individuals like that, it's a lot more difficult to get the voice actors.
Yeah, but nowadays there's so many like tools and abilities.
Yeah.
Like if you know, you like, I think they could do it as like a, you submit a draft for a story to do, and it's like, or a concept of like a moment, so they can see the quality, and then it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, you're getting picked, you're greenlit to do your fan made thing, and then they're like, oh shit, now I've got to like pull all my friends in to do
Yeah.
voice acting and whatnot. I think it'd
Because
be
I do
really
love
cool.
the idea of a fan art being able to become that.
Mm-hmm.
But just because someone has a fantastic art style that really suits Star Wars doesn't mean they'll be able to come up with a good enough story or
Yeah,
know people who can do the voice acting is the only potential downside to that.
yeah,
But
no,
if Disney can find a way to make that work realistically, that would be so fucking cool.
yeah, it really would.
Um, right. Should we move on to the Nerd News Network?
I think we should. Been a weird
It's a
week.
very interesting week.
Yeah, it's been a
Very
weird one.
many things. First, and I think it's fair to say most notably,
Mm.
is the Writers Guild of America is striking for the first time since 2007. Um, and I feel like a lot of people this kind of strike gets lost on
Yeah.
because the reason a strike works is because people feel the result of it. So when the train people strike, our trains don't run on time. When the junior doctors strike, you can't get appointments and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah. And yes, there are always going to be them dickheads who act like they should just shut up and deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have them intelligent individuals who understand the only way to get your own interests looked after sometimes is to not give the other people a choice. Basically, what this boils down to is writers residual checks for stuff they've already produced, and they have to get paid for every time it is then re-shown on TV, is fucked for streaming services. So I think someone said, say for instance you get $10,000 the second time an episode of your show gets shown on TV. If it goes straight to a streaming service after being aired only once on TV, you are only going to get maybe $700. That is a big difference.
Yeah, it is.
The way I've heard some writers describe it in interviews for the media is they are turning writing as a career. They're turning writing from a career into gig work with these kind of paychecks, which is only going to lead to worse quality of everything we consume.
Yes.
And I think, bearing in mind how much money a media makes, pay your fucking writers.
Yeah, and I think I saw a tweet because it's like I will admit I was naive in not fully knowing the extent to which the work a writer does on a show, right? When you hear the writers for a show, you think, oh, they're at the beginning, they write it, all the script, boom, they're done. They get paid for what they wrote. But there was a tweet I saw from someone who is a writer, and I think it was to do with Witcher's. Is it the Witcher new season? I can't remember what it was, but something was starting production, and they're going to continue without the writers. And they were like, "Well, who's going to do the during recording when there's like a line changed, or a script needs updating, or there's like numerous changes happen constantly and things get rewritten. It's like the writers are there for that. Like this isn't just like a production can go on."
So the best example of this actually happening during the writers' strike of 2007 was in James Bond: Quantum of Solace. Now, a lot of you out there will remember the title of that film, but I guarantee you can't tell me any major plot points. And I never realised why this film, despite looking and feeling like a James Bond film, was so bad. It came out this week when Daniel Craig was talking about his support for this strike. Why? So the final script was written for Quantum of Solace, and then the strike happened, and they decided, well, we've got a full script, we're just going to plow ahead. And the only people who were allowed to edit the script, which happens a lot during filming apparently, was Daniel Craig and the director. And Daniel Craig was quoted as saying, this isn't verbatim, but basically the general gist is, I'm an actor, not a writer. So while I might be able to change things slightly, I'm not a writer. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter how good an actor Daniel Craig is, and he's a very good actor, and he was a very good James Bond. He's not a writer. If they turn up and something doesn't quite seem right, or they want to change something because the actor and the director can see the bigger picture story and they don't think that quite works, they can see the bigger picture and know what needs to be done. But it's then up to the writer to make that work and be good, which is why Quantum of Solace, despite looking right and feeling right, was garbage because they couldn't get the script right because they didn't have a writer there to do it.
Yeah, and it's like you say, these actors, especially in situations like with Daniel Craig, where he's been playing James Bond, like he knows how James Bond should come across or sound. So like he can change the odd line to like rephrase stuff so it's like this is more how James Bond would probably say it. Sure, he can do that. He can't write what the fuck's meant to be happening in the overall story. Like that's not his job. And any production at the moment that's saying they're just going to continue, oh, it's fine, we'll continue on, we have the script. Like they're just asking for problems down the road. Either it's going to put delays on production because they're now going to go, all this we've done is rubbish, and we're going to have to wait for a writer, or they're going to launch it anyway and go with it, and it's going to just stink.
Put it this way, because of the nature of TV, we're not going to notice this now.
No.
But 6 months' time, a year's time, you're going to notice that TV feels like shit. It might only be for a couple of episodes. It might be for a whole season of a TV show, depending on how pig-headed the studios were. But in about a year's time, 18 months' time, you're going to sit there and go, Christ, TV's a bit shit at the minute, innit? And this is going to be why. I'm not a writer. I don't think I'll ever be a writer. I struggle with punctuation too much. But these people literally run Hollywood in the sense of your TV shows, your films aren't getting made without them. So pay them. They're not asking for a ridiculous amount. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of money to me, to you and I. And it is a lot of money to you and I. But just because that they're already in a better financial position than you are doesn't mean they're being treated fairly. And that's what this is actually about. It's just like when people go, oh, you want to earn more than £9.50 working at McDonald's? I only earn 13 quid an hour and I'm an engineer. Your anger's misplaced there. Don't be angry at the person who works at McDonald's who wants more than £9.50 an hour. Be angry at your employers for only valuing you at £13 an hour.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. The world has convinced us to be angry at the people worse off who want to be treated fairly instead of being angry at the people who aren't treating us fairly. So I think it's fair to say that we support the writer's strike, and I hope they can get the best out of it. Just like, although this isn't the place we would normally say because it doesn't relate to content as much, just like we supported the rail workers' strike and the junior doctor strike and any strike, basically.
Yeah.
If you're not being treated fairly at work, make them fucking listen.
100%.
Oh God, it feels good to be a little bit anarchist occasionally, Corey. It's like going back to me roots. In other news of corporations who are scumbags getting fucked over.
Yes.
Nintendo notoriously hate their fans. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone.
No, it's really not.
The entire Mario movie, which was dog shit, by the way. If you liked it, I'm sorry you have the taste of a child. This coming from the man who still reads comic books. Got leaked in its entirety on Twitter.
Wish I'd seen this sooner.
And got seen by millions of people before Twitter/Nintendo were able to take it down.
I wasn't away this weekend because I would have watched that film on Twitter.
Which is just hilarious because for those who don't really know, and sometimes like you don't know if you're just in the niche of the internet that understands it or if it's much more common knowledge. I feel like it is quite common knowledge in our niche that Nintendo are scum. But I feel like if you're like not an avid gamer and you just are aware of the gaming world, Nintendo probably seem like quite a nice company.
They're just like, oh, they made the kids games like Mario Kart and Wii Fit.
Mario and stuff. They're lovely. Nintendo hate everyone.
Yes.
And the crazy thing is that's not even an exaggeration.
Well, the best way to put it is Nintendo are control freaks.
Yes.
If they're not in control of something, they will shut it down.
Well, there's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, that streaming video games can get you taken down for DMCA. Just like streaming music can.
Yes.
But game developers are smart enough to understand that letting people stream their games is actually good for them.
Because it's marketing.
Yes. Nintendo would be the company to DMCA strike people for playing a game. Like they did with a content creator who did Breath of the Wild content that was modded. And because it was modded gameplay, they copyright stroked them and took their content down.
Well, they've done it multiple times with content creators. To the point of like, there'll be content creators that have done Mario content or like Nintendo content for years. And then suddenly, it's not just one video gets hit. They just go back through everything and take it all.
Well, yeah, so this is the thing. They hit this creator that I saw about who'd done some modded content, but they also took down content that wasn't modded. Just to show they fucking could. So there are no tears lost for this multi-billion-dollar corporation getting its film leaked so people could see it for free. And I hope more people leak it. and I hope it really hurts their bottom line, because they treat people like shit, and I'm sick of it. Up next, Andy Samburg.
Yes.
Thankfully, he's still not done anything to get himself cancelled, so I can still love him, which is always nice. Andy Samburg has been confirmed to be the voice of Ben Reilly, aka the Scarlet Spider, in Across the Spider-Verse. I love this casting so much. I can't wait for it. There's not much else to say, but I'm excited.
I mean, Andy Samberg is just a gem, and I'm so
that
glad.
man is like 45, and he looks younger than you, Hori. No offense.
No, you're not wrong.
And that's what happens when you stay unproblematic.
I love that he's getting to be in Spider-Verse, and I'm hoping some of these as we get more and more of these different or more obscure Spider-Man revealed, ones that have a voice. I'd love like really obscure voice actors, like really big names, just doing like 1 or 2 lines, just for the sake of like.
Yeah. What I will say is Andy Samberg feels right to play Spider-Man, because just looking at him, I can imagine him playing an older Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Like, even now, I know he's 44. I could see him playing a 30-year-old, more veteran Peter Parker.
Agreed.
So him playing and voice acting as Spider-Man makes complete sense, and I think it's a brilliant decision. Also, across the Spider-Verse, there is a leaked rumored runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes, which will make it the longest ever animated film out of Hollywood.
Which is very exciting.
I'm going to tell you right now, if it is 2 hours and 20 minutes, I'm still going to leave there wanting more.
Oh, 100%.
This is one of the few times that I'm really confident that a film cannot miss.
Also, think about the fact that this is just part 1.
Yeah.
And it's potentially going to be 2 hours plus. So
yeah, I'm so excited for this film. It cannot come soon enough. There was a couple of stills, couple of little extended international trailers and stuff. I don't think there's anything massively worth talking about in any of them, but the animation looks clean. Seeing lots of character designs in a couple of different shots. All the characters look good. There is so many fun little cameos that look set to be made. This film is going to be special.
It really
is. Special film. And I cannot wait for it.
On to Star Wars, though.
A rare Star Wars L at the minute.
Well,
it felt like for a while Star Wars was only taking W's.
It did.
And to be fair, this isn't a complete L.
No,
There's still a large portion of W here. I think the L is more EA here.
Yeah.
So Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, came out to the world. Last week. And it's really funny because I've seen like 3 things about it. It performs like shit on PC, no matter what hardware you're running. If you get more than like 60 frames per second, you're lucky. Apparently that is a bit better after a patch, but you still need the top hardware to be getting like good frames. But despite all that, people are playing it on PC and are still loving it because the story is just that damn good.
Yeah, people are powering through.
Yeah. And I think that says a lot about gamers, who I genuinely think might be some of the moaniest people on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like all of the complaints this time and a lot of the conversation this time are 100% valid. But when gamers are making valid points to be angry about, and they are still powering through because the story is that good, wow.
Yeah,
Give me live action Cal Kestis.
100%. We need it. I think you're like we said, it seems this is probably more an EAL, probably a tight deadline that meant time to optimize PC was limited because they obviously had all console releases as well. Like, you gotta remember this isn't just like a PC game and it's had a poor PC release. Like, this is released well on console. Consoles have done fine. They're optimizing for consoles, no problem. Optimizing for PC is notoriously difficult in any game, even for just PC launches. So, I mean, probably tight deadlines. is what it is. It will get patched and probably improved. And the fact that the story is so good that everyone's still playing it anyway just is a testament to how good the game must be.
But what we do need to do is talk
Mm-hmm.
about Cameron Monaghan, who plays Cal.
Mm.
He is quickly becoming one of my favorite actors.
Oh,
So I've recently started binge watching the American version of Shameless,
right.
in which he plays Ian Gallagher.
Okay.
He was one of the highlights for me in Gotham, the
Mm.
Batman prequel film, in which he played two different versions of a character who is not the Joker for legal reasons, but was the Joker.
Yeah.
Both of which were very different but equally phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And now he is quite possibly one of my top 3 favorite Jedi.
That's fair.
The guy doesn't miss.
No, he's doing well.
So give that man a poncho.
Yes.
And get him in a live action project. Put him in the Mandoverse film.
So here's the thing, right? I was trying to, with one of my mates, we were trying to work out where could he fit into live action. And because of when the game is set.
So Jedi Survivor is set in the same year as Kenobi. It's been confirmed.
So I think
Inquisitors took a huge L that year, by the way.
The strongest chance I think we might get of him in any live action would be Kenobi season 2.
I'd be so down for Ewan McGregor and Cameron just cutting about, being badasses.
I think other than that,
unless they just give him his own show outright, yeah, we're struggling.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no reason they can't give him a show outright. It's not like they just got a random person to be the face and voice actor.
No.
And this is just like someone that they found and they fall in love, and the guy's not even an actor per se. This is an actual, honest to God, mega talented actor who loves this role and gives this role everything, who the fans love. Disney, give him a show.
I mean, the only other thing I could think of maybe he like shows up in, because we know so little about it, is Skeleton Crew.
That would be fine.
Andor season 2.
Oh.
Because something, which slight point I'll throw in here. Apparently the last 3 episodes of Andor season 2 will be the final 3 days or 3 weeks, I forget what it was I read, of the run up to Rogue One.
Give me Cameron. Because here's the thing, they're not going to kill him off in the game.
No.
And he's such a powerful character, he kind of needs to die, otherwise people are going to be like, where the fuck is this bitch? So give him a show, make it a season long, really flesh out the last bits of his character, and then have him die off. Whether that be he becomes one with the Force and becomes a Force ghost, or he finally snuffs it, or whatever.
It'd be great if they just used him in Kenobi season 2.
Yes, anything.
But yeah, I need to pick up that game. I'm just holding off a little bit because obviously I'll be playing on PC. So
I want to play it on PC, but if they don't release a couple of patches soon to improve it, I might just buy it on my Xbox and just play it by myself.
That's fair.
On stream, because I really want to play this. But I don't think I ever finished Fallen Order. I know, but you know how bad I am for finishing story games because I get distracted. So I may just go back and play that to fill that itch until they fix Survivor. But when like streamers who are the most notorious crybabies of gamers are suffering through like 30 FPS, it shows how damn good that game is. So yeah.
In other great Star Wars news.
Yes. This is about damn time.
It is.
In fact, this is probably a number of years too late.
Unfortunately
But
so, but
Carrie Fisher
Carrie Fisher's got her
now
Hollywood
has,
star.
yeah, she has a Hollywood Walk of Fame star. What a legend. Mark Hamill was there as part of the celebration,
Which we
as
love.
well as there was someone else there. I want to say it was her daughter.
I think it was her daughter.
Hollywood.
I would imagine it
Walk of
was.
Fame. Yeah, and it was today because
Okay.
it was obviously May the 4th today.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
It made sense for it to be done.
Smart.
Where is, who was there? Yeah, Billy Lord, her daughter, was there, as well as Mark Hamill, and they had C3PO and R2D2 there as well.
Of course they did.
I love Mark Hamill.
Great man.
He genuinely seems to have a very deep care for all of the people who experienced that original trilogy with him.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Harrison Ford couldn't give less of a fuck about Star Wars, it genuinely seems like Harrison Ford at the drop of a hat could say, "Hey, Mark, can you help me with this thing?" And Mark would be there in a flash. Despite the fact that Mark adores the Star Wars universe, and like I said, Harrison Ford couldn't give less of a shit. And Mark Hamill is the very, very best of endorsing a brand.
Yes.
And I'm glad he was there to honor Carrie in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, me too. It was the best person.
Yes,
who
100%.
could have been there. But I think that wraps up the news.
Yes, I don't think there is any more news this week that needs to be discussed. It is simply onto our Super Showdown.
It is.
This is the second semi-final. Next week is the end of this bracket.
Correct.
And Super Showdown will be no more, being replaced by something that I don't think we've leaked what it is yet, and I don't think we will. But we do need to get on top of that. And this is the DC semi-final, or the DC final, but our second semi-final. Swamp Thing, representing the DC heroes, versus Ra's al Ghul, representing the DC villains. The winner will go on to face Ghost Rider in the final of the Super Showdown bracket.
I'm leaning very heavily one-sided here.
Okay. I think I know what side you're leaning on.
Interesting. I'm leaning Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Ra's al Ghul is a formidable opponent. He has beaten everyone else on his side of the bracket. But at the end of the day, Swamp Thing has beaten many a man stronger than Ra's al Ghul. And a bit of martial arts doesn't feel like it's going to be enough against a giant plant Swamp Thing.
Yeah. I think we need to remember that Swamp Thing is like the living embodiment of Mother Nature.
Yep.
But like Mother Nature's angry older brother who will protect her even if it means prison. So while Ra's al Ghul is very powerful by human standards and has lived for thousands of years and is a master of all martial arts and such.
Yes.
I don't see how he beats Swamp Thing.
No, neither do I.
I can see him surviving the encounter, but I don't see him winning the encounter.
Yeah, no, I don't see him winning. I think he might, maybe he limps away back to the Lazarus pit. But knowing the Swamp Thing has beaten much stronger foes, I just don't think martial arts and like hand-to-hand combat just isn't going to be enough to cut it. No matter your level of knowledge.
I think that is the only logical conclusion to this situation. There is definitely a world where Ra's al Ghul manages to pull out the dub. I just don't think it happens often enough for us to say that he beat Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
and
no.
I don't think that's that controversial an opinion.
No, I don't think it is either. I think it's
which gives us a very, very spoopy and mystical grand final.
It does.
Ghost Rider versus Swamp Thing. And I don't think at the beginning I would have had this being my grand final.
No, I don't think I would have either. I don't even remember whose picks these were.
Would you like me to tell you?
I feel like Ghost Rider was mine. I'm not sure on Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing was yours.
Oh.
And Ghost Rider was yours.
Oh, see, I'm just that good at picking the interesting characters.
I can't be losing the next bracket. I'm choosing the Flash.
You just can't beat me, Connor.
So there we go. Ghost Rider versus Swamp Thing.
Yes.
Is going to be the grand final of the Super Showdown bracket before it goes away and gets rejuvenated into something new and exciting in the coming weeks. If we have enough stuff going on, we might hold off on the new thing till episode 69.
Hey.
Nice. But once again, thank you very much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next week we'll be doing a bigger, deeper dive into Guardians 3.
Yes, we will.
As well as getting ready for some other content that I think is just around the corner. I'll have to look at all my various calendars. But thank you for hanging out. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe in. I saw we got a bunch of new listeners over on Spotify and Apple over the week.
Which we love.
So if you are listening over there, don't forget to follow so that you find your way back more easily. And we'll see you next week.
Yes, we'll see you next week.